The streetlights shimmered like a blur through the night mist, the music from the bar blending with the slow footsteps on the sidewalk. Amina and Kofi stepped out of the bar, slightly drunk, but their eyes were bright with mutual comfort and understanding. The space seemed to become even more suffocating, every breath intertwining with the other. Amina gazed deeply into Kofi's eyes, the spark between them gradually growing into an intense fire. The sound of quick breaths, hearts racing, every worry seemed to melt away in that moment, leaving only love and the deep connection between two souls lost, now found in each other.
Kofi, a young man who had just completed his final year at a prestigious university in the UK, returned to his homeland in Africa after many years away. He felt a fresh breeze in the air, mixed with the sweet memories of his youth. This brief trip home wasn't just to reunite with family, but also to enjoy moments with old friends, those who had grown up with him and shared countless memories. On the first day back, Kofi received an invitation from his longtime friends. "Let's go to the bar tonight. It's been so long since you've been home. We should celebrate." Despite feeling a bit overwhelmed by the rapid changes in the city, he didn't hesitate. Wearing a simple white shirt, Kofi followed them through the brightly lit streets, filled with the sound of lively music. The bar was a gathering spot for the city's youth, the thumping music echoing all around, the smell of alcohol and the sounds of laughter filling the air. Kofi was quickly swept up in the crowd, surrounded by beer bottles, wine glasses, and endless stories. He could feel the warmth of friendship, the relief after months of intense studying away from home. That night, under the dim lights and the buzz of alcohol, Kofi began to understand that no matter where he went, home and the close relationships he had would always be where he found the greatest peace. Amina stood frozen in front of her small apartment just outside the university campus. She had just completed her final thesis defense, the most crucial turning point in her life. Still wearing her black and white formal outfit, holding a folder filled with her hard work and sweat, her heart was full of joy, hope, and dreams of a bright future with the man she had trusted completely, Josh. The thought of throwing a small party with family, planning for their wedding in a few months, kept Amina smiling. She imagined the beautiful bridesmaid dresses, the sparkling banquet tables, and the heartfelt well wishes. But when she entered the apartment, everything shattered. Before her eyes was an unbelievable sight. Josh was sitting next to Rachel, her closest friend, the one she had called her sister, her companion, and her maid of honor. Rachel was wearing Josh's t-shirt, a concerned look on her face as she met Amina's gaze. Josh's hand was placed on Rachel's bare thigh, an unmistakable sign of the cruel betrayal. Amina stood still, frozen in the flow of time. Every breath seemed to catch in her chest, her heart pounding in her ribcage. She knew that no explanation could heal this wound, and no lie could comfort the pain. Without a scream, without a single word of accusation, Amina simply locked eyes with Josh and gently said, "You two deserve each other." She turned and walked out of the apartment, carrying with her the hurt and the betrayal of trust, yet also the resolve not to be defeated. Outside, the city of Lagos shimmered, cold and distant, as if reflecting the shattered heart of the young woman. The night in Lagos was shrouded in the mist of streetlights, and the noise from the bars echoed in the distance. Amina walked slowly down the quiet street, her mind a swirl of pain and loneliness. She had never been to a bar alone before, but tonight, the heartbreak drove her to find a place to escape, to avoid facing the truth that weighed heavily on her heart. Amina sat in a quiet corner at the Elixir Lounge, holding a glass of red wine she couldn't fully taste. Her gaze was foggy as she watched the happy people around her, their laughter echoing, yet unable to erase the sadness within her. Suddenly, from across the room, a man approached. Kofi was enjoying the evening with his friends at the bar, but some of their comments made him uncomfortable. He moved to a quieter corner of the bar to drink and reflect on friendship and his career. When he saw the woman sitting alone, her empty eyes and weary appearance oddly drew him in. He stood up and walked toward her. "Excuse me, may I sit here?" His voice was gentle, sincere. Amina looked up, surprised, but didn't refuse. They started chatting, at first about simple things, but gradually they opened up. Amina shared her betrayal, the shattered dreams, and the loneliness that had engulfed her. Ibo listened, not judging, but deeply empathizing. The alcohol eased the pain that still lingered, and the stories flowed like a gentle stream through their souls. The bar's atmosphere seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, in a hotel room bathed in dim, soft light. Kofi's arms wrapped around Amina's waist. Then, without warning, he lifted her up. Amina gazed deeply into his eyes as their faces slowly came closer, losing themselves in the sweet night of passion and forgiveness. The sound of their quick breaths, hearts racing. Everything else seemed to melt away in that moment, leaving only love and the profound connection of two lost souls finding each other. After that fateful night, Amina felt the changes gradually taking place in her body. The nausea lingered each morning. Waves of tiredness hit her unexpectedly, and her stomach began to grow, signaling the life that was developing within her. But alongside this quiet joy was a tormenting worry. How could she keep this secret in a society filled with judgment? As her belly began to show, curious glances and whispers crept into every corner, from neighbors to friends, colleagues to family members. A good girl's daughter getting pregnant out of wedlock. This will bring shame to the family. How will we fix this? These words were like daggers piercing her heart. Her mother, who had always placed great importance on honor and family tradition, became cold and distant. When she found out, she couldn't hide her disappointment and pain. One afternoon, she stood in the middle of the yard, screaming into the void as though wanting to chase away the shame. Who did this to my daughter? God, punish them. Her father was different, silent, his eyes full of disappointment that words couldn't describe. He packed Amina's things, clearly showing his decision to kick her out of the house. A cold form of punishment that carried heavy weight. This disgrace cannot stay under my roof, he whispered. Amid these dark days, only her grandmother stood by her. She didn't cry, didn't accuse, just gently held Amina and said, "You must live for yourself and the child in your womb. Don't let others dictate your life. Everything will pass." On the long nights, Amina lay in bed, the faint moonlight shining through the window, her tears falling silently. The pain of being shunned by society, the shame before her family, and the loneliness of being an unnamed single mother. All of it intertwined, making her feel as though she might collapse. But amidst the storm, a small flame still burned within Amina. The belief that she would overcome it all, that she would stand up, not just for herself, but for the little life growing inside her. Despite the heavy burden of being a young single mother, Amina did not let fate stop her progress. She poured all her energy into studying law, making use of every moment to revise and perfect her knowledge. The long nights spent beside piles of books, she persevered, not only for herself, but for the future of the child in her womb. After graduating, Amina began taking on small cases, gradually building her reputation with her dedication and sharp arguments. She never stopped learning, accumulating experience so that she could handle larger cases. Her name began to spread throughout the competitive young lawyer community in the city. Meanwhile, Mia, Amina's 5-year-old daughter, grew up healthy, carrying within her a strength and personality that constantly amazed her mother. Amina balanced being a mother, a lawyer, and a source of inspiration to her daughter, teaching her that no matter the circumstances, determination and willpower would help them overcome any challenge. Amina's story was a living testament to the strength of resilience, to never giving up no matter how harsh life's trials may be. The day Amina gave birth, her grandmother was the only one by her side, waiting to welcome the newborn. Amina lay in the hospital bed, her body in pain, but her mind was filled with worry. She had no one with her, except for her grandmother, the only one who had always been there for her during the toughest times. Her grandmother sat by the bed, gently holding Amina's hand, her eyes filled with empathy and comfort. The intense contractions came, and Amina closed her eyes, trying to push through the pain. In that moment of childbirth, amidst the heavy breaths, Amina felt the strength from her grandmother, the resilience that had been passed down to her. Mia grew up in the loving embrace of her mother and grandmother, but she was always curious and constantly asked about the father she had never met. With innocent eyes and a soft voice, Mia asked her mother things that many children would never think to ask. "Mom, is my dad real or a cartoon? Why doesn't he video call me?" These questions made Amina feel both compassion and concern, knowing that the truth could not be fully explained at that moment. At school, Mia could not avoid the curious stares and gossip of her classmates when they discovered she didn't have a father. Once, she overheard Chelsea, a classmate, say that Mia was just a child without a father, maybe created in a lab. Mia was saddened, but instead of crying, she stood strong, defending herself with innocent yet sharp words that surprised everyone around her. The time spent with her mother was not only joyful, but also a lesson in resilience and self-respect. Mia learned to accept the differences and gradually became a confident, strong-willed little girl, someone who would be the greatest source of motivation for Amina to continue moving forward on her path. Under the grey sky of London, in the small apartment where he was living, Kofi could not shake the image of the woman from that night, the woman with tears in her eyes and a burning fire on her lips. Every time night fell, when the city lights lit up, memories of that moment flooded back, making his heart ache. He remembered every small detail, the way she spoke, the sadness in her eyes that she tried to hide, and the hurried, mysterious look as she silently left the hotel room before dawn. Though it was only one night, her image remained etched in his mind like an unquenchable fire. Kofi tried to bury his emotions, focusing on work and the major projects at the international law firm. But in the quietest moments, the loneliness and the unresolved longing for that woman kept him awake at night. He wondered if she was safe, if the child in her womb was being properly cared for. Once during a conversation with close friends, Kofi unexpectedly opened up, telling them about the mystery woman whose name he didn't know and to whom he had no way of reaching. His friends were surprised, teasing him, but for Kofi, it was a deep, unresolved longing, the regret of not knowing her, the desire to be a father, to protect and love the woman and the child. This feeling was not just the pain of a man heartbroken. It was the awakening of a heart waiting for a chance to make things right, to start over. After many years working in London, Kofi decided to return to his homeland in Africa, to take on the role of CEO at his family's law firm, a significant step forward in his career. With light luggage and a heavy heart filled with thoughts about the unfinished business of the past, he stepped off the plane, eager yet anxious. On his first day working at the new office, Kofi could clearly feel the differences of the city, the bustling sounds, the distinct smell of red earth, and the harsh African sunlight. He tried to focus on his work, with papers scattered all over his desk and tense meetings ahead. But fate didn't give him peace for long. One morning, as he was entering the building, a red balloon suddenly rolled out into the wide hallway. The sound of children laughing echoed, and then a small, curly-haired girl ran after the balloon, her innocence shining through. Mia, in a small blue dress, ran so fast she didn't stop in time before bumping into Kofi, the tall man standing in front of her. She fell, but quickly got up, dusting off her dress and looking directly into his eyes with the confidence only a child could have. Kofi bent down, surprised to see the dark, curved birthmark on her neck, a mark that only a few people in his family shared. His heart skipped a beat for a moment. He gently asked, "What's your name?" Mia smiled. "I'm Mia. My mom works here." He chuckled lightly, but inside, a surge of emotions flooded him. This seemingly random meeting was the turning point that opened the door to the past and future for all three of them: Kofi, Amina, and little Mia. He knew that from this moment on, his life would never be the same. That morning, the air in Lagos felt slightly cold, as if time wanted to start over. Kofi stood in front of Amina's apartment, his phone having vibrated countless times. He had never felt so conflicted. Since meeting Mia, all the emotions he couldn't explain suddenly became crystal clear. He knew he had to face Amina, to confront the past and the unfinished matters. When the door opened, Amina stood there, looking like a figure who had changed, stronger, but still holding on to her gentle nature. Though the wounds were no longer visible on her face, he could see the hesitation in her eyes. They silently stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Amina spoke, her voice gentle but firm. "You've come back, so what do you want now?" Kofi took a step forward, his heart pounding, not out of fear, but deep emotional impact. Amina, I couldn't forget you. And I can't forget that little girl, Mia. I've wasted too much time in my life, but now I want to make it right. Mia, who had been standing behind her mother, suddenly spoke up. Hello, Daddy. She looked at Kofi with innocent eyes full of expectation. Kofi bent down, staring into her bright eyes that he now realized reflected his own. A silent moment passed before Kofi softly replied, Hello, Mia. You're my daughter, aren't you? Mia smiled and nodded. Amina stood beside her, her eyes filled with tears. She never imagined that one day Kofi would return, not only to face her, but also to face Mia, the daughter he had never known. This emotional and surprising encounter was the beginning of a new journey for all three of them. No more hesitation or worry, Kofi was determined to start over, not just to love Amina, but to make up for the lost time with Mia, to become the father that she deserved. We will be a family, Amina said, her voice full of confidence, but also tinged with emotion. We'll rebuild everything together. No more past, only the future. Mia's grandmother, who had always stood by Amina through her difficult journey, also walked into the room. She looked at Kofi with eyes no longer filled with doubt, only acceptance and love. Congratulations to you both, she said, her voice gentle but full of understanding. Life is full of new beginnings. Let love and forgiveness lead the way. And so, Amina, Kofi, and Mia began their new journey, with firm belief in love, family, and the ability to start over. Each of them carried a story, a pain, but also hope. Hope that family is not only about blood ties, but about love, forgiveness, and the willingness to embrace second chances. Kofi looked at Amina and Mia, his eyes filled with determination and deep affection. I was wrong, and now I'll do everything to make it right. You two will never have to worry again. I promise to give you both a life full of love and happiness. Dear friend, tell me where you are watching videos from. If you enjoyed this story and want to follow the exciting twists and turns ahead, press the like button, subscribe the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any parts of these emotional and surprising stories. Thank you for joining us.